It's time to pick a side. The Border War is on the air with BG 10.
All right, gang, welcome into episode 117 of the Border War. It seems like we have been doing this forever. 117. Reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at the Border War. There you can find the Twitter accounts for BG and myself. You can also find us on Facebook as well. BG, how was your weekend, my friend?
It was a pretty good weekend up until yesterday's restaurant fiasco.
Lots of good deal. Well, listen, you didn't go to jail. You're still here.
I came close.
Well, we've all been there.
Sometimes, when people tell you an hour, 45-minute wait, there's the theory they're just trying to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out they were telling the truth. They sure were.
Well,
yeah.
Anyways, we're going to be talking some NBA basketball in this episode.
I can't tell you where we were because it's the sponsor of a competitor.
I don't know. We don't want to give them any
We can't give
any
them
love.
any play, man.
We're going to be covering some NBA basketball in this episode. We might talk some draft lottery, maybe some fits for Zion Williamson. We're going to give you our thoughts on the conference finals as well. The matchups are now set. If you missed it last night, shame on you.
These games were great and all, but I wish we knew a Lakers fan.
Well,
I would love to talk to Lakers because
funny.
I just think it's so amusing.
Well, funny you should say that. We're going to start off by covering the Lakers. They're not in the box.
You're kidding.
They're not in the box, but some big news.
Do you know a Lakers?
I do know a Lakers fan. Some big news out of L.A. They have hired a coach. The search is over. They've hired two coaches, and apparently they're not going to differentiate between any of them according to them.
I think we know who the coach is going to be.
We are joined on air by a good friend of mine. I asked him to come on the show today because he is, of course, said Laker fan. Mr. Jonathan Hanna, welcome to the program, buddy.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
We're glad to have you. We need to make this.
It's probably been over a year since he was on the show.
Yeah, it's been a while. We need to make this a more regular thing. If you'd ever actually pick a place to be and stay there for more than a week and a half at a time.
Hey, that actually has nothing to do with a cell phone, but thank you.
Anyway, the Lakers. Frank Vogel, man. I know you and I, we texted about this some yesterday.
I mean, he was first on everybody's list, wasn't he?
Was he first on Jonathan's list?
I don't think he was first on LeBron's list.
If I was a G League fan, yes, he would have been first on my list.
A G League fan?
You might ought to think about becoming a G League fan there, big guy.
Well, their G League fan does have Joe Barry.
I was about to say, that may be where the future is.
Look, I saw a lot of, of course, this was the talk of the town yesterday and today on some of the TV shows. I'm going to come at this from a Pacers point of view because everyone, if you follow the NBA, Frank Vogel was the coach of the Indiana Pacers through basically the most successful run we've had since the Reggie Miller days. I don't think this is a bad hire. I really don't. I don't think it's a bad hire. I don't think it's necessarily fair to Frank, but I don't think, just from his stand, I don't think that it's a terrible hire for the Lakers.
So I group it in with the category of what we previously had. You think about your Mike D'Antonis, you think about Mike Brown, Byron Scott, Luke Walton. Now, maybe Frank Vogel is a little bit more respected, a little more polished, did have more success than the previous one. Him and D'Antoni probably playoff-wise pretty similar, especially with his days with the Suns. But it's really an embarrassing time to be a Lakers fan right now. The fact that there was a small protest outside of the Staples Center.
It was small. There was like 15 guys. They were all teenagers from what I saw.
Yeah.
How small was it?
We were looking for a sexy pick, and is Frank Vogel probably qualified? I mean, yeah, he's probably solid enough, but it just seems like it was the seventh choice, and rarely when you have the seventh choice, rarely does it ever work out successfully.
I think the whole where you are on the pecking order, I think that's a little overrated. If Frank Vogel comes in there and does a good job, then he'll stay. If he does a great job, then he'll be there for 10 years. If he does terrible, then this time next year he'll probably have his house on the market. I just think where he was, as far as their choice order, I think there's a little too much made out of that. My thing is, to me, the Lakers have screwed this thing up from the get-go. Number one, you had a guy choose the Phoenix Suns over you. Then you bring in Ty Lue, which is, everyone thought, okay, you get Lue in there, this deal's going to get, this is going to happen. They're going to work it out. This is who LeBron wants. He's comfortable with him. And that falls through. He leaves town without a deal. And then it comes out that they're trying to force, forcing the 3-year deal, forcing the Jason Kidd onto the coaching staff. Ty Lue said, no thank you. How much of this, what's your take on how much of this is them, I don't want to say distancing themselves from LeBron, but if you look, if they were dead set on this 3-year deal for our next head coach, LeBron's got 2 years and an option left. To me, that's them going, look, we'll get somebody in here that works with LeBron, that he respects, but listen, when this thing is over with, it's over, and we want a clean break of it.
I mean, I can see that angle. It just seemed like that. Frank Vogel was available this entire time, and if he was that solid of a choice, why wasn't he the first option available, or even the second or third? I just don't see how this improves us as a ball club, as a separation from the post-LeBron era. I mean, possibly. It was a 3-year deal, and obviously LeBron has exactly 3 years left.
Mm-hmm.
This whole ordeal with, trying to have a head coach, have your assistant be chosen, like that's something that's unprecedented from far as I'm concerned, and I've been following basketball and NBA for quite some time. I've never heard an organization say, hey, this is who you must have as your top assistant, who is usually, you're somebody you've worked with for years.
And most of the stuff that I've seen, most of the stuff I've seen get leaked out said that was a bigger sticking point with Lue than the 3 years was.
Right. I mean,
because he didn't think that was a good. I mean, and take Stephen A. Smith's take for whatever you want to take it for. And I don't know that he's alone in this, but a lot of people, him included, kind of leading the charge on this, said basically what they did was they hired Jason Kidd as their next head coach because they weren't comfortable just throwing him in there now because of some of the off-the-court stuff that's gone on with Kidd, the drunk driving and the spousal abuse and all that stuff.
But that stuff was years ago. Like the spousal abuse, that was like 15 years ago, and that was
like Jonathan's saying,
jobs
why the 3-year contract? Why insist on Jason Kidd? What did Jason Kidd do in Brooklyn that shows us that he's there's something else going on here? There just is.
He had a messy breakup in Brooklyn, and also at Milwaukee, he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So there's something that he needs to have polished before giving him the reign. And
that's exactly right.
His experience.
That's exactly right.
I think forcing Kidd onto the staff was them going, that was LeBron's guy. Okay, you didn't get Ty Lue, like Jason Kidd was his next choice. And when they went to him and said, listen, it's going to be Frank Vogel. And I can see the look on LeBron's face where he's not amused by that.
Do you think LeBron's going to be there 3 more years now?
Then why not give Kidd the job then?
Well, that was my thought all along. Look, if you feel that strongly about Jason Kidd, then to heck with whatever else anybody thinks about off-field.
Well, they obviously weren't willing to say to heck with what everybody else thinks, but there's no other justification behind insisting he's on staff. Nothing else makes any sense.
It kind of seems like the heir apparent situation, like you said. It's the Bobby Bowden, Jimbo Fisher. Like, it's a head coach in waiting. Something was not, Jimbo had never been a head coach, but something was there, and they wanted him there. And obviously it was announced as head coach in waiting, but this seems like he will be the successor of Frank Vogel, especially with a 3-year deal.
What is the over-under on when Frank Vogel gets fired? Because I think we can all agree, like, he's got a 3-year deal. He's not going to be there for 3 years.
Well, I think the first question you want to ask in relation to that is, how long is LeBron going to be there? Do we really think now that they've looked him in the face or indirectly and said, you don't get your guy? We're not hiring Ty Lue. We're not doing things your way. You wonder, A, how that's going to impact any free agency that LeBron could have pushed, because anybody that comes there is going to know that it's all going to, in best case, it's all going to crash and burn after 3 seasons. And then 2, again, how does that, I mean, it's almost like you have a present tense team and a future tense team that have to coexist, and I don't see how it's going to work.
I think there's a power struggle going on within the Lakers.
I do too.
Where LeBron showed up and thought, okay, I'm here. I've always kind of done things a certain way, and he expected that people in the organization would just kind of follow along. And Jeannie Buss, and they're like, no, you're not in charge here. We're in charge here.
It's not Jeannie Buss. According to the insiders, it's Kurt Rambis' wife. That's who's
Linda Rambis.
Where did she come from? How does she get involved with basketball operations? I mean, they like Jeannie is running this organization like your local mom and pop bread store. Like this is a national basketball organization.
It's a worldwide
brand.
brand.
And develop who is the best person, not because they have ties to the team.
It just seems like it would be something, and I normally don't say it, but like the 3 of us, I think, could sit down in a room. If you gave us complete power of the Lakers, I just feel like you could fix this so easily.
I can't do any worse.
But my point being is, I think the Lakers are one of those teams that guys want to go play for when it's being run correctly. When it's being run correctly.
There's the thing. When it's being run correctly.
Yeah, but it would be us, man.
Oh, listen, if you have been privy to any of my 2K runs man, you want to put a team together, you call the TanMan, I will put a team together.
All we have to do is start out with a league-wide fantasy draft, right?
And then we'll go from there. No, as far as free agents go, I want to hear your thoughts, because I don't believe that they're getting anybody.
No, I don't either now.
Yeah, you talk. I mean, you and I throw this name out there a lot in discussion. Danny Green. Could you see Danny Green going to L.A.? Maybe, but
the only
is
people
Kawhi
I can see going.
I mean, nobody's going out there for this.
Guys LeBron's age that might think they've got 3 years left, that think they've got a legitimate shot at a ring. Maybe. But that's it.
Free agent wise, I don't see it. If any kind of major overhaul comes, it has to be through a trade, and I mean like a 2, 3, 4 team trade. I mean it's got to happen that way. I don't see anyone.
Something's got to happen, because that
coming to Lakers town now.
Well, I said you could see that team after they all found out that LeBron didn't want them anymore. Like there was just when he came back after he got hurt. By then they all knew he doesn't really want us.
Because they were in 4th place before all that happened, right?
You could just see like something's there. They weren't together. I don't see how they can go into next year with this same group and this same bunch of guys and not make any major additions via trade. Because like I said, I don't think any free agents are going to have the Lakers at the top of the list. Not knowing that, listen, the best player on the team already doesn't want the coach. I'm not getting in the middle of that.
No kidding.
No, and we all had a big hoopla with Magic and how he left, and I don't agree with how he left, but at the same time, like
I understand why he wanted to leave.
The decision was made.
Listen, we try to tie everything into a box around here on this show. So I want to pose a question to you, because we talk a lot of Charlotte Hornets on the border war. Which one of those 2 teams is in a better spot where we sit today as we record this show on May the 13th, 2019? Are the LA Lakers or the Charlotte Hornets in a better spot right now?
So I'm not going to ever disrespect my team by ever comparing us to the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to say LA because of the fact that it's still a major market and it's still Los Angeles, and you still have the potential to play with one of the all-time greats, where Charlotte, you're not going to get any of that. Kemba Walker's a great player. However, I think both organizations are probably one of the worst in the entire league. But I will say LA just simply off the fact of you still have LeBron and you still have Los Angeles as your background. So I give that a slight edge.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna say the Charlotte Hornets are in a better position right now than the Lakers, because I feel like for the first time in basically since they returned back from, since they brought the Bobcats into town, since NBA basketball returned back to Charlotte, I feel like the Hornets have a path. They have a direction. Now, it's a diverging path right now until you decide until Kemba Walker decides what he's going to do. But I feel like, okay, if he decides to leave, we're going to do A, B, and C. We're going to go down this path. If he decides to stay, we're going to go and forward and do A, B, and C. I think the previous regime has loaded that organization down with bad contracts, but those things are going to start falling off the books here pretty soon. They're not going to be around for the next decade or so. I think they've got some young pieces. And so, I think the Hornets are in – I understand about having LeBron and having one of the three best players probably to ever play the game there, but it's just so much dysfunction that, to me, in my opinion, I think right now, I think the Hornets are in a better position.
I would say that it depends on how much weight you want to give to what you mean by right now. If you mean this day,
like today, said, right now,
then yes, I think the Hornets are in better shape. But I don't know that they're in a better situation. And you do have to acknowledge that the fact that the Hornets are in the East, and that just is better off the bat than being in the West. But if you ask me who's going to be in better shape 10 years from right now, I don't think Charlotte's got a chance in that equation, because I don't think this mess in L.A. lasts forever. Whereas I think Charlotte has a glass ceiling that seems pretty defined.
This mess in L.A. has lasted for knocking on the door to almost a decade now.
It has.
If you think about it, who does Charlotte attract? What top tier player would consider Charlotte versus Los Angeles?
Well, I think that's a different discussion. I don't think right now. I think the players that would consider going to L.A. to the Lakers, I think they're the same level of players that Charlotte could attract. I said Danny Green earlier. Take Danny Green for instance. If Danny Green hits the market this offseason, you don't think Charlotte would have Kemba Walker decides to stay? You don't think Charlotte could sign a player like him?
I mean, probably so. I'm just saying in the realm of glamour, LA will always have that edge, whether it be the Clippers now who are relevant, or the Lakers, for having that edge of being able to attract that top talent to even be able to entertain coming versus.
Right. And I think you're talking more about in general, and I think he's trying to talk about this second.
But I'm saying take LeBron James out of the equation, because he was going to be a Laker if you were the GM and I was the coach. That was happening. Outside of LeBron James, who was the last free agent the Lakers signed? Dwight Howard? Listen, free agents aren't going there.
Who did go to Charlotte?
Who did end up in Charlotte? I remember Greg Monroe before Milwaukee became Milwaukee. Greg Monroe come down and he was one of the better names on the market at that point of time, and it was L.A. or Milwaukee, and he goes, I think I'll go to the Bucks. They're not a free agent draw anymore. I hate to be the breaker. I hate to break the bad news to you.
Especially live on the air.
No, I don't disagree with that. However, it'll still get elevated over Charlotte.
No, I don't think anybody. TanMan might disagree. I agree with you on that, but I think it's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while. Don't sleep on the Indiana Pacers as a free agent player this year. Don't sleep on the Pacers. That's all I'm saying.
You might as well say the NBA needs to build a team in North Dakota.
Well, I'm thinking about building one in Anchorage, Alaska, and Honolulu on my 2K season, but I can't quite pull the trigger.
I will say that I think just about everybody 2 seasons ago was sleeping on Milwaukee. So there's that. I knew Giannis was good, but you'd have told me they were going to make the Eastern Conference Finals at the beginning of the season. And yes, that is a segue, by the way, TanMan. I wouldn't have believed that.
Yeah. Hey, listen, big man. All right, have you got to go, or can you stay on?
No, I'm good.
All right. Listen, before we get into the conference finals talk, we want to talk about a little Zion Williamson, a little draft lottery. The draft lottery takes place tomorrow. I don't know about you, but for some reason I find this incredibly compelling every year. At the top of the odds, you've got the Knicks, the Cavs, and the Suns at 14%. followed by Chicago at 12.5, Atlanta at 10.5, rounding out the top 5. The Hornets come in at 1%. So, guys, obviously the number 1 pick is Zion Williamson. I don't think that's any debate.
Probably followed by John Morant.
Of these teams, one, where do you think would be the best fit for Zion Williamson, and where do you think that he winds up going tomorrow night?
Tell me the teams again.
You've got New York, Cleveland, and Phoenix at 14. Chicago at 12.5. Atlanta at 10.5. And then, of course, you got Washington, New Orleans. It's got Boston listed. The Lakers are there. Charlotte's there. Basically, all the teams that didn't make the play.
I'm going to go kind of crazy on a limb here and say, I wouldn't mind seeing him play in Phoenix with Trae Young because, I don't know what the
Atlanta.
Celtics are going to look like.
Atlanta with Trae Young.
I'm sorry. I don't know what the Celtics are going to look like. I don't think anybody knows what the Celtics are going to look like. I don't think they're going to have a point guard. And the Knicks, you get into the same thing we've been talking about with the Lakers. It sounds like a great spot, but what in the world's going to be going on in the front office in New York? Nobody really knows the answer to that.
I'm going to have to say Atlanta as well. I think you have, arguably one of the top rookies of this class. I think Trae Young really showed what he could do the second half of the season.
And his game matches up with what Zion does.
Correct. And that's I think is a really good match for those two and him to be able to play off him and to where someone is able to run out in transition and, be able to create off the dribble, as well as being able to spread the defense too. So I really think Phoenix would be a good fit. I think probably, from a personal standpoint, for him, New York would be great. Obviously, with the media coverage and that being like one of the meccas of basketball, that would be a great fit as well. Especially, I think if you get him, you do attract more free agents as well. And obviously, everyone's always saying that KD and Kyrie are a duo to be going to New York as well. So I think that would make it even much more attractive. So, but definitely Atlanta, I think overall, just from like a basketball perspective, would be the best fit.
Yeah, at the risk of sounding redundant, I agree with the two of you. I think Atlanta would be interesting having Trae Young there, and you can kind of put him in there with John Collins.
Paging Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Paging Mr. Green.
You can have him down in Atlanta with Trae Young kind of spreading the floor and opening up the lane. They're going to get out and run a lot, which is where Zion in the open floor.
Right.
He's basically unstoppable. I think New York is an interesting – Phoenix would be an interesting spot as well with Devin Booker. They've got DeAndre Ayton. They've got some young pieces.
They've just done nothing with
them. They've done nothing. And for all the young guys that they have, they still don't have a point guard.
I don't think a good. I agree with you. I don't think having a situation where no one's dishing him the ball works well at all.
I think John Morant would be a better fit in Phoenix.
Definitely.
I think he winds up in New York because I think this thing has been rigged from the get-go. The NBA
don't do that.
The NBA wants the New York Knicks to be good so badly. I think Stephen A. Smith today said 95% he's hearing that KD and Kyrie Irving wind up in New York. Add Zion Williamson to that mix, and all of a sudden the Knicks go from one of the worst teams in the league to one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the East.
Well, that's what we talked about last week,
like
though.
that.
I think the Knicks are one of those teams, though, that moves the needle. And so, as a casual NBA fan, I'm not upset about that idea either. Like Jonathan said, man, they play at Madison Square Garden. It's awful to see the level of basketball that's been played there for the past 10 years.
I would be shocked if tomorrow night the New York Knicks don't wind up with a number 1 pick. Like they do this draft lottery thing, and
who knows what's going on inside that drum?
They do this lottery thing where they take you behind, and they're in this big room, and it's all these numbers, and they pull, and it's these formulas, and they try to make it look like it's so complicated, right? Yeah. They go out of their way to show you, look,
I wish they would ditch the whole thing.
There's no funny business going on here. Look at how difficult it would be. Come on, man.
And the only thing that matters is dollars and cents. And regardless if anybody likes it or not, the NBA is a much better place when the Knicks and the Lakers are
You're
doing
right.
well.
You're
Yeah,
right.
No, nobody's arguing with that. I think it's more interesting when the Knicks and the Lakers are doing well.
I know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. That's why.
It'll be curious to see, jumping back into the playoffs real quick, what television ratings are for the Raptors, because the Celtics and the 76ers would have been a series, I think, that more traditional, like East Coast powers, and now you have a Canadian team and a team from the smallest city in the Midwest, but two of the best basketball players in the league. If you're a basketball fan, this is the series I think you were hoping for.
If you're the
But if
NBA,
you're the
this is the
NBA,
one
this
series
is-
I think you were trying to avoid.
Yeah, at all costs, and it's happening. So
Look, I think that I said last week. I think this is a win for the NBA because, yes, Milwaukee's.
well, you're
not,
going, you're riding your no LeBron in the playoffs.
Well,
train still, right?
well, that. But I'm going back to. Listen, the NBA has got stars. Like there are more than 5 guys in the league, and now the country is finally getting to see how great Giannis Antetokounmpo is.
And you're right. They need that
getting-
in the long run
right,
because
you-
LeBron's not going to play forever.
You've got Toronto. Did you see the place go crazy when Kawhi hit that shot last night? Like, that is a rabid fan base.
Oh.
That is a great organization.
We've talked about how much of a home field advantage or home court advantage they've had for 2 years now.
Yeah,
I think that might be the toughest place to play on the road in the NBA.
Yeah, and then you've got Portland, who I don't know about you. They stick the Blazers on at 10:30, 11 o'clock. I can't stay up. I can't stay up and watch the Portland. Now the country
Well, I
is
do,
getting.
but I'm Damian Lillard's biggest fan.
Now the country is getting a chance to see Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum and see these guys that they don't get to see throughout the year. I think it is a huge, huge win for the NBA.
Yeah, this series, I'm looking forward to both of them, honestly. I can't lie. This entire playoffs has been so balanced, and there's
I
so
think
much
it's been
variance
fantastic.
The
between
second round was great. Yeah. Nobody
Yeah.
expects the first round to be great, but then you have people playing that don't need to be in the playoffs. So.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Golden State, like I should be concerned. Like obviously, their core players have that experience and they've won previously. But God, Dame is just he's special, and KD is not going to be playing. Rumored that he won't be there through at least the first 2 games.
Yeah, that's what I read. First two.
That's going to be tough for them. I really think it will be.
I think game 2 was unlikely, but he's definitely not
Yeah.
playing in the first game, is what I read.
Right, and I've had a calf strain before. It is like the most. It's like a hamstring. It's just nagging, and you really never fully recover from it until like you're resting. So I'm curious, and Kevin Durant is as big as a pencil, and it looks like his calf muscle. It can't have much of a calf muscle anyway.
Well, I say it didn't look like there's a whole lot there to strain.
Luckily for
No,
him, he
yeah,
won't have to
yeah,
bench press
that's-
anything to
yeah,
recover.
Well, I heard him say after that happened that he actually had this injury, maybe with the other leg. He actually had this injury at some point last year, and he wound up missing something like 3 weeks.
I don't remember that, but
So it was something like he wound. It seemed like they said he wound up missing a few weeks with basically the same injury on the other leg. So I don't know, maybe even game 2 might be pushing it.
Yeah.
which one of these
Yeah,
two
it's-
series do you
it's
guys
tough.
think? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a tough injury. So that timeline, I didn't hear that, but that timeline seems pretty accurate. So I think they're not gonna stretch it too thin, to where they're putting him in jeopardy. But I really don't think he'll be playing the first 2 games. So
Do you really think that impacts them heavily? I tell you, man, I thought they looked like a better team without him. I know that sounds crazy, but they played
Right.
that. Man, Klay Thompson.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, yes, it impacts them. I think when he went down, they got before he came along. When they first started this run, they were a deep team. They had a deep bench. They had guys that would come in and
Now it's just Klay instead.
Now it's kind of you're back to Clay, Steph, and Draymond. Iguodala's still there, but I think they got a lot of extra from their bench the other night. Like I don't think you can necessarily count on all that stuff, and I don't think you can count on Steph Curry giving you 33 and a half.
playoffs.
Do what?
I said to which they haven't had this entire playoffs. But anytime
Right.
that you lose 34 points per game from one person, I mean, it's going to be an impact. But it's something that they're well trained for, and they do have a different style completely when KD's not on the floor or he's injured. So I guys are battle.
That's all I was
tested, and
really getting at. And they seem like a more balanced basketball team without him.
Absolutely.
I think them playing Houston though, I think that worked to their benefit because I said going into the series, I don't really see anything that Houston could do.
Can we just have a moment of silence for that whole thing?
Oh, no,
what in the world?
That's over. But I don't think that there was anything Houston was going to do that was going to beat them in a 7-game series because I don't think that upstairs in their brain, in their head, I don't think Houston really believed that they could beat Golden State.
I mean, you just saying that because I picked them to play the Celtics in the finals? I mean,
No,
you're just piling on?
It's the analogy I used when we were talking about this series a couple weeks ago with the Pacers in that Heat run where they battled and Miami sent them home for 3 straight years. Like you watched it, and they would get so close, and they would stand there and trade blows.
I remember you talking about how in the offseason Golden State was like, who did we beat? Right. Oh yeah, Houston. And Houston's like Golden State.
Yeah.
And then
but when it came time, when it comes time to finish the deal, like Indiana just couldn't do it, and Houston's the same way. And if they keep this core, they've got $80 million tied up in Harden and Chris Paul. That's not going anywhere. They match up again, it's going to be the same thing next year. Like it's just not going to happen.
And I felt like Chris Paul, he just didn't show up in the way they needed him to. They need him to be a superstar, not a star.
Yeah.
Harden did what he was supposed to do, but man, that series was just not compelling.
That game 6, like Eric Gordon had been lights out, the first 5 games, and he didn't have a great game 6. Like they weren't at that point where anyone could have an off day and then be able to beat them.
It felt like they had to have everybody on, and that's not going to happen 4 out of 7 times.
Nah.
And Andre Iguodala his consistency with being able to hit perimeter shots has changed everything too. So he's being left alone. He's making that shot with confidence.
He just stands there in the corner.
More dynamic as well.
He just stands there in the corner, and that shot just about always goes in.
Does anybody else
and he'll continue to get it.
Does anybody else feel like Andre Iguodala is just going to play NBA basketball for like another 20 years?
Well, I mean, he's not even running down the court.
Right. To me, I watch the Warriors, and it just seems like he's always there. Like I think he'll be there. He'll be there for another 15 years, man.
I can see like a movie scene. They turn the lights in the arena on game 1, and he's already down in the corner.
Yeah. All right. So we got Blazers and Warriors, and we've got Bucks and the Raptors. I'll start off Blazers and Warriors. BG, who wins?
I think the Warriors win it in 6. I do.
I agree.
So you're not
No,
you're not going to pound the Damian Lillard drum.
No, I mean, look I've been talking about how much I love watching him play since any white dudes on the East Coast had ever heard of him. But I mean, it's what we've been talking about. Let me say this: Golden State's defense not talked about enough. Mm-hmm. They smother people. They just absolutely smother people, and I think they'll take everybody but Dame out of the game, and he can't beat them by himself. Their ball movement's too good. He's not a great defender, and I think that he's going to score 35 and 40 points a game, but it won't be enough to beat them more than twice.
Yeah.
See, I'm jumping on the Charles Barkley bandwagon. I think Portland beats
That's
Golden
always
State.
a dangerous place to
Yes,
play.
I know.
I
know.
not put any money with that then either.
I'm going Portland to beat Golden State.
I'll tell you what, I would love it if the NBA needs it. Everybody needs it. If you want to take this LeBron thing you're on, LeBron's not in the playoffs. Let's see the new guys. Let me see Portland in the finals. That would be amazing.
Portland has been that team for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years now that always makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
And never gets past this point, right?
They don't always make it past the first round.
Right. And by now they are already at the house. They went into Denver the other night. A Denver team that, yes, this is their first playoff run, and that is going to be a dangerous bunch for another handful of years. That's a different conversation. But they went into a place where the San Antonio Spurs and Greg Popovich lost to Game 7, where they basically lost their mind. Like, they just completely blanked out in that arena. Not only they went in there and won, but they got off to a bad start yesterday.
Well, both teams did, to be fair.
Portland got off to a bad start. Damian Lillard did not have
Nobody could shoot the first half of that
right.
game on either side.
Lillard did not have the game that we've become accustomed to seeing him have. The guy that stepped up yesterday, and the reason they're still playing, a man that owns a piece of my heart after what he did to the Duke Blue Devils when he was in college at Lehigh, C.J. McCollum. They've got two dudes, man. Unlike Houston, you've got Harden. You know the points are going to come. They've got two dudes who you have to know where they are at all times, and if they get some help from their bench, I know Rodney Hood's got a knee injury right now. The MRI came back clean. Evan Turner played big yesterday. That's a name you haven't heard a lot of. But if they get into that bench and their bench gives them some production without KD, if they can steal one of these first two in Golden State, watch out, buddy. Watch out for the Blazers.
I mean, I see them getting into a shootout, and I see them losing by 5 or 6 points. I don't think it's going to be lopsided. I just think that Golden State is built for 7-game series, and their ball movement, how many guys they have that can score. And you're right, but when you say stuff like if they have excellent bench production and if they have players step up, and I mean those are lots of ifs to happen 4 times out of 7.
And I think the NBA is so great with this, like 7-game series, like it's always going to be the best team. Like there is no luck. And then also I think they have that motivation factor with both looming free agencies with Clay and KD. I think everyone knows like this run is coming to an end sooner than later. So I think they have that extra edge that is just going to propel them to win this third straight championship.
It's crazy to think, like if Draymond Green had not swiped LeBron James in the man region,
yeah,
like
they were winning that one.
They were winning that one.
Absolutely.
Like this team would be going for 5 straight championships.
Absolutely.
That's unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
On the East side, we've got the Bucks and the Raptors. Basically, two teams that no one has paid a whole lot of attention to all year long. All the focus, it seems like, has been on the West Coast. In Milwaukee, not the Warriors. It's the Bucks had the best record in the NBA this year. Where do you guys see the East going as this series ramps up? I think they start, Wednesday night?
Yeah, they do. The first one starts tomorrow night, Tuesday night, and then the East starts Wednesday night. I think that it's going to go to 7 games, and it just depends on whether or not the ball bounces 4 times into the basket or out of the basket. I think this right here is going to be must-see TV, man. I think this series, I can't wait to watch these two guys go at it. I mean, right now, the way they're playing right now, I think these are 2 of the best 5 players in the league.
No doubt.
And it's going to be, and they're like mirror images of each other.
Yeah.
The way these teams are built. I mean, I think it's going to be great basketball. And I honestly, God, I don't know. I'm gonna give the edge to the Raptors. I think that Kawhi just seems like he's in a different place. Giannis seems like he can have an off game. I don't think Kawhi can, because I don't even think he cares. Like he wins the freaking game. Like he was the only guy that scored in the fourth quarter, I think.
It seemed like there
was a time and they come up to him after the game. How do you feel about that game-winning shot that's going to be played in the NBA Hall of Fame for the rest of your children's lives, Kawhi? And he's like, yeah, it was pretty good.
A history-making shot. Like that.
It was pretty good.
That shot had never happened before in the history of the NBA.
And more than anything else, he just seemed annoyed that he had to talk to a reporter.
I'm going to go Bucks in 7. I do agree with BG. It's going to be a dogfight, and it's going to be amazing basketball to experience for what I think will be 7 games. I'm going to give the Bucks the slight edge only because I'm a huge Mike Budenholzer fan. I think that he is a great coach, and I think that he will be able to provide Milwaukee with some more sets and some different advantages. You're not going to be able to stop Kawhi. I think we all know that. But Kyle Lowry disappears every once in a while.
He does. That's a good point.
He doesn't disappear. He just leaves.
Yeah. So Van Fleet, he's a key part. I mean, he goes missing sometimes too. So I think that I'll give them the slight edge, just because I think Bud will give them. I just like him a little bit more than I do Nick Nurse. So
I just think about their history, and I think about Giannis in this situation, right? With that spotlight on him. I mean, Kawhi's done this. He's done it somewhere else, and he wasn't the only guy, but he did this. That's just sort of my thinking. But look, another place where I'd be perfectly fine being wrong. I don't want Golden State to win another title. Outside of that, I don't really care.
I've been pounding the Raptor drum for a while now. I said a couple weeks ago that I thought they might be the best team left in the East. Mm-hmm. And then I watched the Philadelphia series. I watched Kawhi Leonard's teammates time after time after time let him down. He's basically put everybody on that team on his back, and if he doesn't do it,
right,
they're going to lose by 20 right now, it seems like, no matter who they play.
Right.
You don't feel the same about Milwaukee, though?
No, I think Milwaukee Giannis has more help around him, I think, right now than than Kawhi Leonard does.
I know it's a different time with being in playoffs, but I think the Bucks were the only team during the regular season who were top 5 in offensive categories and defensive categories. So they get it done on both ends.
That's right. I don't see this. I could see Kawhi Leonard at some point during this thing just kind of running out of gas, man. I don't think he really. I think he's kind of got one foot out the door, a la LeBron in Cleveland last year. And if things start going sideways, if he goes 2 games where he don't get a lot of help, I could see him just being like, "Look, man, it is what it is." It wouldn't shock me if Milwaukee won this thing in 5.
Wow,
it wouldn't shock me.
Wow.
I think I'll take the Bucks in 6, but I think at some point Kawhi Leonard not having any help and having to do it all on his own, like a shot. They're here because a basketball bounced on the rim 4 times and fell in last night. Like that's it, man.
Well, there were other games before that moment. There were points scored before that moment.
We're not getting into that, but they're here because a ball bounced on the rim 4 times and fell in. Right.
And it's if you watched the game yesterday, like Kawhi. I mean, I know it was a game 7, so it was win or go home. But he took 39 shots. Like that's not who he is. He's not
probably
volume.
His least effective game of the whole series.
Right. So if he's got to do that to carry, like you said, if he's got to do that to carry the load to shoot 39 times, that's not their style. That's not his style.
And now it sounds like I'm arguing with myself, but they beat a 76ers team that looked inept on offense in that fourth quarter. I don't know what they were doing. There were 3 different possessions where Embiid is sort of standing at the top of the 3-point arc, setting screens. I'm like, what are you doing?
Tell him to get his big 7-foot tail down on the block. Tell Ben Simmons this offseason to get in a gym and find a jump shot somewhere.
I couldn't even find Ben Simmons on the screen.
Well, he played 40-something minutes, and what did he have, like 5 shots? Come on, man.
And Jimmy Butler, who's playing on one leg and excellent DNA, okay? I mean, my man's rushing the basket. He's throwing up stuff. Jimmy Butler, to me, in that fourth quarter, looked like the only 76er who realized what the stakes were.
There you go.
Everybody else was just sort
of... Another pending free agent.
I was just saying, there you go. You guys might be able to get Jimmy Butler, but I think even that's a stretch.
I'll take Jimmy.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think Charlotte has an in angle on him, too, and I'll just leave it at that. I mean, Jimmy Butler and Michael Jordan are close.
And that's what the Lakers need. They have one superstar who hates their coach, a coach who's not really the coach, and we're going to add Jimmy Butler, and that's going to make it all better.
He's a great locker room guy. Yeah. Everybody knows that.
All right, guys, you can email the show at carolinaborderwar@gmail.com. Whatever way you listen to the show, the myriad of ways we're available. You can like the show, subscribe it if you can. Leave us a review. Tell us how awesome we are. Follow our takes intently. What were you about to say, big guy?
It's crazy though how terrible the Lakers are, and yet they are still to this day the topic of conversation. This amazes me.
They stink, man. But it's like the Cowboys, man.
Like didn't your owner say all press is good press or all media is good media?
Hey, as long as you're talking about us, baby, we're happy.
Yeah, we're doing a whole lot of talking. That's it.
All right, guys. 117 is in the books. 1 episode this week, so go back and listen to some of the old stuff. TanMan, BG, our friend Jonathan, we're out. We'll see you next week.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Oh, no problem. We're still actually on the air right now. Everyone tell Jonathan goodbye.
Goodbye, Jonathan.
Goodbye.
Oh, man, that's good stuff.
Hell good.
Hey, go get your tail back to work, man.
We need
No,
to get
man,
you. We need to get you in town where we can have 3 people in the studio.
Well, he won't come to town. Every time he comes to town, he just kind of drives by up 85.